Welcome to Murphy's Front Bar, back by the Teddy Demler train, popular demand. And grand final week, unbelievably, is upon us already. It's hard to believe that 23 rounds and basically 4 weeks of finals have already passed. What a lineup we have assembled for grand final week, Murphy's Front Bar style. Man down the end, played 219 games for the Cats. He kicked 18 of the greatest goals you will ever see. And he once stated that a clear conscience is just a sign of a bad memory. Bluey McGrath, welcome to the Murphy's Front Bar.
Thanks, Benny.
Great to have you on. The man in the middle of the front bar. He's played 43 games, unbelievably only 43 games for the Cats since debuting in 2017. He's the first player since Athos Hirasalakis to be named All-Australian in just his second season. He polled an enormous 4 Brownlow votes on Monday night. Tommy Stewart.
Benny, thanks for having me.
Tommy, great to have you with us. And a man right on my left, 209 games, I think, Domsy, for the Blue and White Hoops. He takes the kidney out of steak and kidney pie. Tom Lonergan.
Hey, Benny. Hello, mate.
Boys, grand final week, unbelievably. I don't think if you had $1, and Tom, I know you can't punt, but if you had $1 at the start of the year, you probably wouldn't have had it on Collingwood playing West Coast on Saturday for the Premiership Cup.
No.
Oh, well, no, but I know a fella who's mad Geelong who punted Collingwood to make the grand final this year at 125 to 1.
That's a good effort.
That's a great effort.
It's been a really good story, and even if you're not a Collingwood fan, to follow the Pies this year. They've been a really good story in footy, the way they've gone about their footy. They've had an unbelievable number of injuries. Probably outsiders had written them off just purely based on injuries. Yet they get last Friday night. I'm not sure I've seen a better half of footy than that first half they played against Richmond. Talking to a couple of ex-Collingwood people, including Lee Brown, who felt that nobody would have beaten Collingwood last Friday night. It was an unbelievable 60 minutes of footy they played.
Yeah, they're a tight-knit group, aren't they? I mean, you look at the forward and back line, both pretty makeshift. The back line, Tyson Goldstack's only just come back in to fill a key post with Lyndon Dunn going down early in the year. And then you've got the forward line, which is made up predominantly of young guys, really. DeGoey, Jaden Stevenson and big Mason Cox. Big man tore it apart last week. So, yeah, really good effort. And considering Bucks was on a chopping block last year, fair effort in it.
Before we talk a little bit more about that grand final, Domsy, but everyone would love to play with Big Cox, and you'd, I don't know why you're laughing at that gag, you're unbelievable.
Straight face.
It wasn't straight face. Just quickly, if you were playing on Big Cox, because he was huge last week, how would you go about dealing with him? Because it's something that West Coast to be talking about.
Probably put a little bit more body on him than what I think Alex Rance probably did last week. I don't think they bodied him enough, and Tommy will probably talk about it. I think they allowed him to run around wherever he wanted. Didn't put any real physical presence from what I was watching, and they were able to obviously the mids and the forwards had that connection with those kicks. Set it up for him, run and jump. It's impossible to stop him when he takes it at the highest point, but I think there was a lack of physicality.
Tommy, just before we talk about footy, Brownlow.
Yes.
Monday night. Are you front and square?
Yep.
So you get the call up to the Brownlow. You're in your second season of AFL.
Yep.
You're rookie at the Brownlow. Tell us sort of how it unfolded and how the night went and who got absolutely shit-faced.
Oh, I did.
Yes.
No, it was really enjoyable. Obviously, it was a lot less stressful for me than my beautiful partner. She was freaking out for the week leading up to it and all that sort of thing. And we sort of got there and it all happened. And I turned to her, I was just like, was it all worth it? Didn't even speak to the media once. 2 photos, straight in, started drinking. It went really quickly and it was actually a really good fun night.
When do you actually get the call up and how many players from the club actually attended?
I think you find out the week before finals. That's when you get the invite sent out. We had 7. So I think every club's supposed to get 5, but we had obviously Gaz and Paddy, the 2 ex-winners, so they always get the invite every year, and it was a really good crew.
And obviously Tom Mitchell, a worthy winner. He had more possessions than God knows something that had a lot of possessions, but
yep.
I mean, I don't know what your boys, so it's just a midfielder's award. The more you get the ball, you're the only chance. I mean, Tom, you only had 4 votes for the night. I know I made a bit of a joke about it, but somebody who ended up All-Australian only getting 4 votes, and yet you look at it and somebody like Sam Menegola, and no disrespect to Sam Menegola, but he ended up with 7 votes purely because he gets more of the ball. What are your thoughts on the Brownlow in terms of being a recognised award? Tommy, you probably could speak more to it not being currently in the game.
I think Domsy will speak pretty passionately about this one because no votes, wasn't it? Donuts.
Roy Orbison.
And it's a short point.
It's a touchy subject.
Let's back over it then.
Actually, Nick Smith has just, I think, taken over my
No
my
votes.
record. 0 votes. I think we're equal on games though, because he got injured late in the season. So Nick Smith's got another year to run at Sydney, and I think he'll take the mantle of no votes for the longest player to get no Brownlow votes.
I think Angus Brayshaw polled more than Max Gorn.
Yeah,
Angus Brayshaw did get an invite and came third, which
So does
is
that mean
quite interesting.
Do you think that helmet manufacturers will be?
Don't know. It's just the way the umpires view the game is obviously a lot different to the vast majority.
Didn't win one during those years, or fair, when they get 99, 100. Like,
Yeah.
how I just don't understand how they couldn't. Playing as a full forward and kick 100 goals. Clearly you're the best player in the league.
Another interesting one is the All-Australian fullback didn't receive a vote either this year.
Yeah,
So
Needs to be looked at. Alex Rance, no votes.
Should we have the best forward,
Tom,
the best
not
midfielder,
many.
the best defender?
Well, they're going to have to do something because it's heavily weighed for the midfielders to win it. Now, if you want to call it the most valuable player, which is what it is, in any particular game, if say Domsy plays on Buddy Franklin and holds him goalless, well, you would say that Domsy's the most valuable player for Geelong. Or the most valuable player on the ground because the best forward in the game hasn't scored on him and Geelong have won, for argument's sake. How is he not the best player on the ground? But he would get fresh air because someone had 30 and kicked 1.
It'll be interesting to see if that something does happen. But you obviously enjoyed the night time. They put you up at Crown, or what?
Yeah, it was brilliant.
What do you do?
Really good night. Like I said,
Who were you perched next to?
I had Gaz on one side, Mitch Duncan on the other.
Okay.
So it was a pretty good crew, and obviously their partners there with them as well. So it was a really enjoyable night. It went quite fast, and then before you know it, it's the wee hours of the morning.
Home about 6.
Yeah, 6 p.m. Yeah, pretty early. No, it was a late one, and I enjoyed myself, and I think I'll pace myself a bit better this year.
Talk a bit seriously about footy. A fantastic year, albeit in a team that ended up, failing in some ways in the finals. But yourself took another massive step in just your second year of footy, and you must be pretty proud of efforts. But those sorts of things don't just happen. Obviously, you worked super hard to get there, and you must look back on it and think, well, I got the fruits of that work that I put in.
I mean, I will eventually. It still stings a bit that I'm not playing still. Obviously, the big dance this Saturday, I'd give any individual honour to be part of that game, and like I said, one day I will look back and I'll really enjoy those individual accolades. But I mean, this fella only knows what it's like to play in a granny, so that's what you want to do.
I was going to say, Domsy, you played in front of 100,000 in the grand final that lost, and you played in front of 100,000 in a grand final that won. So you know both spectrums. In one game you were a key forward, and you bookended the game, I think, with goals. Kicked the first goal and the last goal. 2011, you were an established key defender at the other end of the ground. It's these boys that play on Saturday. You have a great understanding, and you too, Bluey, of what they're going to go through.
Yeah, look, it's and like Tommy said, you've got to take the opportunities, don't you? Like it can, it can come and go pretty quickly. And Cats, I guess, they're still in a position they will be next year to give it another shake. And I suppose for me and Mac and the guys before me, Scarlett, Enright, the guys that have played together and played in those premierships, that was something that we really tried to impart on these young guys coming through. I know Joel and Hawk and Harry are there. Gaz has played in a couple as well. Just to be a part of that week and be there on the last day, it's something special. But to get the points, it's unexplainable what the feelings you go through. And I suppose both ends of the spectrum, losing one, and Bluey will be able to talk about your...
I've just come out of rehab.
Maybe not. But losing one flew, and obviously then winning one. I'm actually glad that in some way that I went through the losing one first, and then it made me really appreciate how important winning one is, and how unique and special that moment just after Siren's gone is.
Did you feel, obviously, probably goes without saying, but did you feel a vastly different person going into 011 than you did 08, just in terms of your standing within the footy club, the games you played, the experience? 08 was probably still uncertainty about your role. I mean, I think you kicked 30-odd, mid-30 goals for the year in a team that was, red hot all year. But just talk about the difference between in your own emotions from, 3 or 4 years apart in grand finals.
Yeah, so I was a 22-year-old kid, playing Hawthorn, big Melbourne team, 100,000 at the G, and thinking that after the year we had, we're probably going to roll up and get it done. And then to be sitting on the grass watching the Hawks celebrating the Dice was hard to take. But 3 years later, I certainly learned a lot of lessons from that 2008, even my preparation leading up to the granny. Learned a lot, and that's why I think West Coast are in a really good position on Saturday. I think the Kennedys and the Darlings of the world, they would have learned some valuable lessons from 2015 against the Hawks, and I reckon they'll come and be really prepared and get the job done on Saturday.
Bluey, the wash up of the Cats, obviously. You saw them firsthand for the first half of the year on K-Rock footy, and then obviously watched it from the couch in the second half when you were coaching the Whammos. But what were your sort of thoughts on Geelong's season when you got time now to reflect on it a month out?
Yeah, you would say they were disappointing. One period there they were out of the 8. So to claw their way back in and get into some reasonable sort of form at the end of the year gave a lot of people some confidence that they'd, might have built at the right time of the year. And you look at Richmond now; they're the best team all year, and got to the end and they were terrible. So Geelong were the opposite. They sort of were good. They were average in the middle, and then come good at the end. And to look at it now, there's some holes for sure.
What are your thoughts, Domsy? I mean, you see the game, obviously the guys intimately that play, but you've removed from it this year. What do you think of when you think of the Cat season and how you would sum it up?
Oh, I think it's been pretty well critiqued or dissected over the last 2 weeks, and I'm sure the players they're all very honest blokes, and they'll all put their hand up and say that they definitely fell short of their expectations. I'm sure they went into the season thinking they could win the grand final like you do most seasons, but there was no reason why we couldn't go that extra step from last year. But I think really, I suppose the last 4 or 5 years have been really disappointing, and I was included in that last year, and the year before we missed 2 prelims and bowed out in straight sets in 14. I think we've had sort of a disappointing 5-6 year run. I think there's going to be some serious reviewing going on down at the Cats. On a number of fronts. I think whether the message is getting through the group or whether there's other aspects. I mean, I suppose I'll look at Richmond last year and Doggies the year before, and now maybe Collingwood and West Coast. Look at these teams and go, wow, Melbourne even, they're very close-knit guys. They've gone through a lot of hardships together, and they've come through the other ends. We've brought a lot of guys in. We've been transitioning the list since 2011, brought a lot of guys in, new guys. Do we need to build that deeper connection and really, sort of get to a level where we really trust one another in those big moments? That's something that I feel we could certainly get better at.
Just culturally, as you're talking about in terms of when we see the relationship that Nathan Buckley seemingly has formed with his players, and I don't think that was always the case. He may have been a little bit removed, but obviously changed his ways because he was forced to. The results suggested that he had to do that. We saw it last year with Damien Hardwick, you mentioned that, and then the year before with Luke Beveridge, who had a really tight bond with his players. I wonder whether that's an area that the club, no doubt they'll be looking at everything, but it's funny that those things you can control in footy are things that sometimes get put aside, and I wonder whether that's potentially an area the Cats could look to improve in 2009?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to comment what Collingwood or Richmond are. But, I mean, looking at from the outside, they just look like a really tight-knit team. The coach is pretty relaxed, and they look like they really care for one another and trust one another. And I think it's an easy win that any team can do, and it takes work. You've got to put time into it and start from the top. I think the Cats it's definitely an area we can improve. But wait and see.
So, Tom, is it difficult, like, maybe not difficult is the right word, but you playing with there's a lot of guys thrown in who haven't played a huge amount of footy together, and they're at different ages as well. You know, Scotty Selwood comes in, and Dangerfield are the older group, and then the other blokes coming in as younger players. Does that take time at that level of footy to mesh as a group, or is that something that maybe is a bit of a furphy in footy here?
No, I think you're spot on with that. You can't really teach the cues of your teammates until you're out there playing with them. You can train as much as you want, and Doms, you'll know this. You build that trust with games played and action shown in the field. But I think we're obviously we had a disappointing end to our season this year, but I think we're in quite a good spot still. I think we've had the most player turnover in the last 3 years of any club in the competition, and we're still making finals and back-to-back prelims. Albeit, seen as a failure, it's still we're developing some of our kids, and we've seen the fruits of our labour. I mean, Jack Henry was as important a player this year. Brandon Parfitt's been a gun. I mean, Tim Kelly polled, I think, second or third most votes for us this year. We've seen a lot of new players come through in pivotal spots. Saw 10 rounds of Asava Radigalea, who was probably as exciting at 10 rounds as you'll see. So the more we play together and the more time we spend together, like Dom said, outside the footy club, and we build those relationships, we'll be a lot better for it.
The expectation outside of the footy club, given that the recruiting the club had done over the last 3 or 4 years, was that this year it probably needed to be right there at the pointy end to sort of justify the year as a success. Is that a feeling that is within the group as well, or is that do you just sort of have to take each game, the old cliche, take it each week as it comes and go from there, or do you stock up and everyone thinks, geez, hang on, we're on here, we're a big chance this year?
We had that genuine belief, and I don't think failure is the right word, because it's bloody hard to get to a grand final, let alone win one. So I don't know if failure is the right word to describe it, but we had that genuine belief, and we thought we were in as good a form as anybody at the tail end of the year. And come that Melbourne game, we didn't show up for a 40-minute period, and they got on top of us. So it's as simple as that. Not going to point your fingers or play the blame game, but we just weren't good enough on the night.
Bluey, Cats are, obviously this is the trade season, and some of the rumours are unbelievable. Cats are obviously, players talked about Luke Dalhouse and Gary Rowan potentially joining the footy club. Do you think that they're good fits for the mix at Geelong?
Oh, well, I suppose Link McCarthy looks like he's going to Brisbane. Bring Dalhouse in for that small forward pressure. Gary Rowan, if that's all the case, got good speed. Geelong's not real quick, so to add him in would be great. You only got to look now at the teams that are in the grand final. Both play 2 ruckmen. Lot talked about Geelong this year, the best midfield you've ever seen. Dangerfield, Ablett, Selwood. Let's not forget Mitch Duncan, who goes through. He's a great player, Mitch Duncan. So 4 of the best midfielders you could possibly see. But yet, week after week, we lose at clearances. These blokes should be just having it rammed down their throat. So, as much as Reece Stanley's had a much improved year this year till he got injured, you need to throw over them but the kitchen sink at a really good ruckman. That seems to me to be the thing that we lack.
Well, you might be right, and there's all sorts of rumours. Obviously, Sean Darcy too is another one that's name has come up, I think, tonight on the radio, but no doubt plenty of what happens in terms of names, what actually transpires in terms of pen to paper. It'll be 2 very, very different things. Tom, I'm going to ask you, your rise has been well documented. You probably get sick of talking about it, but where does your footy go from now? What's this? You've had 43 games. There've been 43 pretty good ones, but you've gone from sort of 0 to the top quite quickly. What's the next phase of your footy in terms of your development?
All I can ask myself is just consistency. I mean, I like to think I'm playing at a pretty high level of footy now, which is obviously what you come into the system to do as a mature age recruit, is to come in to have an impact and play your role and sort of complement the team. My next, I'm just going to keep it pretty simple, to be honest, and that is just have a really good pre-season and give myself every chance at I mean, hopefully team success first, and then just play as well as I can every week. So,
who wins on Saturday?
If Collingwood play like they did, Collingwood, but I think West Coast will have the experience on the day.
The weather potentially being sort of cold and miserable play any part for West Coast or suit Collingwood, or
You think teams adapt well, but I mean Melbourne going over to Perth last week, whether it was the crowd or whatever, the weather was 26. Not sure, but it certainly rattled them. But I think you'd like to think that West Coast played enough footy in cold weather that they'll adapt to that okay.
I think Collingwood will win. If there's no reason to say that they couldn't. Their hunger and the way they demolished Richmond last week was unbelievable. If they compete and can nullify their two key forwards, I think Collingwood will win.
It's been a pretty.
It pains me to say that.
Yeah,
It really hurts to say
yeah.
that.
Pretty poor final series, like in terms of games. As a neutral, games watched hasn't been that exciting. I reckon this week will be the best final. That qualifying final against Collingwood and West Coast was the tightest final.
Yep.
I think this week both teams are coming off red hot games and in red hot form. I think it'll be the best final.
Norm Smith?
I reckon Kennedy will get Norm Smith in 4 or 5 and be the match winner.
Tommy?
I'm going to go for a bit of a, not so much a smoky, but an unheralded hero, Jack Redden. In and under, I reckon he'll tackle all day, and I reckon he's in very good form.
The bookmakers look like he gets over the any old.
Yeah, I reckon.
De Goey is mini version of Gary Ablett Senior. He's made for the big stage, loves the limelight, he's quick. He could put on an absolute clinic if he gets the right matchup. It depends who he's going to get, but he's a very, very good player.
What odds a streaker? Sort of Helen Domenko style with that.
If someone's prepared to put up the 9,000, someone will do it.
You reckon?
Yep.
We're due for one, aren't we?
Well, it wouldn't be Helen Domenko though, would it? Have you seen that footage, Tom?
She's in a Zimmer
of Helen
frame.
Domenko.
She's about 85 now.
She had the jelly tubes too. There's no jelly tubes these days. I wouldn't have thought. It should be a cracking contest. I don't think we've seen two sides win so comprehensively their prelims for a long time. Usually one side sort of falls over the line and then another side gets in quite easily. But I mean, they just played unbelievable football. You wonder the capacity to step that up again for another 4 quarters and produce that effort again, because sometimes those efforts are one out of the box, and the side that sort of can get close to replicating that is probably going to win the game.
I just reckon, talking about West Coast, just their firepower up forward.
Yeah.
And all credit to Collingwood, because their backline have done an exceptional job with the injuries they've had, but Kennedy, Darling, Liam Ryan's awesome, Willie Rioli, Shuey goes forward, Yo goes forward. Like, they've got so many blokes who can play that forward half, and I just think that's where the game's going to be won and lost.
The offsetting that too, though, is that Collingwood have so many different avenues that you don't recognise as avenues.
Yeah, true.
Josh Thomas, Will Lonergan, Elliott, De Goey. I think they've all kicked 30+ goals.
Jaden Stevenson.
Yeah, Stevenson's the other one who's mid-30s, so they don't have the recognised taller players.
True.
You wonder whether if Kennedy and Darling can combine
fire.
for 4 or 5, it might just tip the scales. Depends on Big Cox. If he gets hold of a couple,
I
then
can't see Coxie having a game like that again.
no chance.
You wait, who knows?
Who
The
knows?
USA champ
Who
went up
knows?
at the
I heard
MCG.
that.
Who knows? And hasn't he been on social media? He's got to tone that back a bit, doesn't he?
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It's just
What's
the
he
American
on?
way. It's the culture.
Yeah, but-
they just love that arrogant sort of, put it out there.
They call it
what's he-
confidence.
What's he had out
Is it
there?
arrogant?
Tweeting all through the brown.
Coxie's comments, just
comments.
calling him, thinks he,
Are they as funny as Dane Swans?
Nowhere near.
Did he?
Doesn't have the credits in the bank like Swanee does.
Yeah,
either. I mean,
right.
Swanee can say
Then
what
no
he
one
wants.
has. But if at the level now, if you drop your guard for a second, any player whether it's round 1 or the grand final. They'll take you to the cleaners. So if whoever's playing on Cox thinks, you know, he can't play this well again, and you're going with a little bit of a not as strong a mindset, even though it's a grand final, it can happen, he'll start marking the ball. They give him a chance.
Moving off the grand final before we wrap up, question without notice, what's been the highlight of your, Tom, for you, the highlight of your, obviously, apart from getting gas to the eyeballs at the Brownlow, what was the other highlight of the year for you, looking back?
Footy or non-footy?
No, footy.
Footy? Oh, it's hard to go past the All-Australian. Just to know that I contributed to my team and gave it my all this year and was recognised. Still don't know how it sits with me, but it's pretty surreal to have that jacket hanging up in the wardrobe.
And you did it too, obviously, through some adversity. It seemed that there's quite a few weeks that you'd limp off with an ankle injury, which I'm imagining you went into the game with, that was flared up. So it wasn't all sort of clear sailing for you either in terms of your body.
Yeah, I mean, everyone plays with an injury through their career and through most seasons, wouldn't they, Dom? So I just happened to carry on a bit and go out with the Bronx cheer as I was coming off the ground. So, yeah, I mean, I hurt my foot against North Melbourne, and I carried that up until the Brisbane game when I had the week off. So it was as simple as that, and it was just a nice little needle in the foot and got me through.
We thought you had a stone in your boot.
I wish it was just a stone in my boot.
The good thing about this bloke is he's humble. He just says then it doesn't sit comfortable with him, they're all Australian, but bloody should, mate. Yeah,
thanks, mate.
Is it the best 43 games we've seen by a player in recent times?
Don't know about
their
that.
first 43?
It's a pretty meteoric ride, particularly, well, I would have thought for somebody who didn't come through a traditional pathway of football.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be maybe the number 1 draft pick, or I mean, Joel Sewell was probably one out of the box, Chris Judd was another one, but they were pointy end draft picks who were identified as young
They're
players.
supposed to do it.
I still remember talking to this bloke, had the shoulder in a sling 2 years ago, Mad Monday. Was it 2 years ago?
2016, yeah.
Mad Monday. And, well, it was about...
Only VFL player to rock up.
It was about 2 a.m. at the Common Bean.
Yep.
And I said, what pick are you going to go? And he said, oh, I've had a bit of interest. He said, read off about 7 clubs, and thought around the 25. So I watched the draft a month later, and to see him float through to 40. I was licking my lips, thinking, geez, what? He's done well here. Wellesley's pulled one out of that.
It certainly has. Was there interest, Tom, from other clubs in the lead
Yeah, a
up
lot.
into that draft?
Yeah. I spoke to 13 clubs in the lead up. So all that was a new experience for me, but as the story goes, Wellesley sort of pulled me aside mid-year and wanted me to have a shoulder reco, and our VFL team that year was... Yeah, he just wanted to just throw me out the back and just hide me for the year. So, but our VFL team, we had a really, really good team, and I didn't want to miss out on playing in a flag there, and unfortunately we got done in the finals. But yeah, so I didn't shoot myself in the foot, but I had to do the interview process and go through everything, and a lot of clubs came knocking, and Freo sent over their sports psych and tried to convince me to move into state. And what initially saved me was North Melbourne put a bid on Callum Brown, and because Collingwood were going to take me with that pick at 35, I think it was. So that saved me and got me to the Cats. Or I was 41, I was going to Freo.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how things work out.
Played out very well. It was a very, very emotional night and a very long night, to be honest. A long day.
Oh, it's amazing those. I'm going to make a great book, the draft stories that you don't actually know about.
Yeah.
So you could have easily been playing for any of them. I think a lot of Cat fans probably think that Geelong was the only club that sort of showed any interest in it, but that's clearly not the case.
I had to do some convincing talents from interstate clubs to back off, or else I'd leave after a year. So I think that got rid of them, and then the Melbourne clubs came knocking, and it was a bit harder.
Who first invited you to Geelong, to VFL?
Troy Selwood.
Troy.
Yeah. So obviously playing with Scarlett at South, told me I was wasting my time, and then Troy gave me the call, and.
So through Maddie contacted Troy, and then
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Troy wouldn't have seen you play.
No, he may or may not have watching local footy, but Scarlett was actually at the Bulldogs the 2 years I was with him, and then he'd just gone back to Geelong.
Right.
And he sort of worded up Troy, and then went down and trained, and yeah, rest is history. Yeah.
When the great man speaks, the 30, everyone listens.
Yeah.
Everyone listens.
He's coaching this year in terms of developing not only yourself but guys like Jake Colajazzi. You mentioned Jake Henry, Jack Henry, who played. He ended up playing up forward, ironically, but the defence was probably the strong point of the Cats this year. It was even though it was the youngest and most inexperienced, and the group that you would have looked at on paper at the start of the year and thought, geez, we're not going to win a whole lot of games with that, but it ended up being the strong point of the club.
Yeah. We celebrated it. We didn't celebrate. We had a goal at the start of the year to be one of the top 5 defences in the competition for points against, and we ended up being number 1. So to have that mental and know that we contributed to the team was something, as you know, Doms, that you look back and that's you're there to do that job, and that's not let scores against happen. So albeit a makeshift defence, I mean, Mike Blitzards, in my opinion, should have been the All-Australian full-back. He doesn't really care, but and yeah, Jack Henry, I thought, was as good a first year in the comp, and like you said, we threw Mark O'Connor down there. We had Cam Guthrie. Like, we had all these players go through, and we got the job done. And it's an awesome place to be a part of, that back six.
So we were never ranked 1 in defence back in the day.
No.
We'd let through 20, no problems at all. We'd let through 20 goals, but our forwards had kicked 30.
Yeah.
So we look good.
Kenny never picked anyone up, did he?
Never.
And Gaz had kicked sort of get 10 of the 20 you let through back up the other end by himself.
Kicked 10-8. Next week, kicked 14-7. When are those days coming back?
The team would still lose.
What was the biggest haul you had? Because back then, like you said, 25, 30 goals.
Biggest haul they'd kicked on me.
Dustin Fletcher at the Legends match, and he was saying his first 3 games, he had Plugger, Ablett, and Dunstall.
As a 17.
It went 9, 11, and 10 or something like that in his first 3 games.
Yeah, my first 2 games for Geelong, I had 9 kicked on me by Dunstall in 2.5 quarters. And then the runner came out and I thought, thank God for this. And then the next week I played against Melbourne and Alan Jakovic kicked 4 on me in a quarter. And then I got moved to centre half back, and I never went back to full back till later that year.
Never got caught in the cage.
Oh, it was horrible.
Was there a story that though, Bluey, that Malcolm Blight, didn't he come to you after? Was that after the Dunstall game?
Yeah, the first game.
And said, we're going to go with you again? Or?
Yeah, things have changed a lot, obviously, for good and bad. But we had a function back at the footy club after my first game, and we're sitting around. We're all disappointed. We got beaten by Hawthorn, who unfurled their flag from the previous year, and Blighty came to the table and a few of the boys sitting around. He put 2 jugs on the table and poured everyone a beer. We sat around and had a beer, and he said to me, that wasn't good today, was it? And I'm sort of, no, I was too scared to talk to the great man. And he said, now look, don't worry about that. Now next week we play Melbourne and we'll play on Alan Jakovic, and I'm sitting there thinking, where's the candid camera? This can't be right. I've just had a hatful kicked on me and I'm playing next week. And that was him though. Like, he just showed faith. And
what did he say to you after the first quarter, after you kicked 4?
Nothing. He said, now we'll move you to centre half back. And I played on a fella called Michael Pickering, his brother, Michael Pickering, who was a marathon runner in a footy jumper.
Yeah, right.
And I held him, I scraggled, did everything I could just so he wouldn't get the ball, and played okay after that. And it was. But I do hold a record that will not get broken for maybe ever. That my first year at Geelong, Dunstall kicked his first and his 100th on me in the same year.
Right. Jesus.
That'll never happen again.
It's incredible.
Pretty good player to do it.
Oh yeah, I'm not shattered by it. I don't lay awake at night worrying about it, but it's a record I'll hold.
Well, boys, thanks for joining us tonight. It's been great, particularly grand final week. No doubt you'll be busy. Tell me what your best and fairest. Just before we do let you go, I had a little word from one of your teammates. I had to ask you that apparently your footy is going gangbusters, but there's a couple of things that aren't going gangbusters at the club. One of them is your NFL and your NBA fantasy teams. Apparently you're absolutely diabolical.
Well, NBA fantasy hasn't started, so that doesn't make any sense.
And apparently last year you're ordinary.
Yeah. That's a stitch up, because I was in the best conference and I came last by a game and they all finished on the same amount of wins. So this is obviously Dan Mensley who's tried to stitch me up. He beat me by 1 game and 0.5%, so he wasn't going much better. And NFL, I've started pretty bad.
You've started already.
Yeah, I'm 1 and 2, but I'm not going great.
Oh, look, and what are the plans? The Kaji next Thursday.
Yeah, next Thursday.
Yeah, and no doubt, given your season you've had, you're right in the running. And I know you don't set out to win those sorts of things, but if you do, it will be. I don't think there'll be too many Cats will have won the best and fairest in just their second season, and no doubt you'll be right at the pointy end. So good luck with that. And what's the off-season hold for you? Are you heading away, or what do you do?
Not too much. I was just talking to Blue before. Got some renovations happening on the house, but I'll duck up to Queensland and might go to the snow for a couple of days and just keep it pretty low key.
Okay. And Domsy, what do you got planned on Saturday? You've just got a
Sellsword.
quiet day with the kids, haven't you?
Sellsword Lonergan.
No, not this year, mate. I'm heading down to the big one. Bet easy, marquee, and go on some goals.
This is a raw.
September club. And,
Right. So what time will
Britney Spears.
you'll be home? Sort of Tuesday.
Yeah, lock me in for a Monday night, late Monday night.
Perfect. Well, thanks
I
for
love that.
joining us on the panel. And Bluey, what's going to happen on your set in the McGrath household on Saturday?
I'm working Saturday.
Are you? All day?
Not all day, but I'll work till lunchtime.
Unbelievable.
So that means when you run your own business, you got to just do what you have to do.
Just do something for the battlers. All right, well, boys, thanks for joining us. It's been, a good year and a bad year in some ways for the Cats, but they'll be back in 2019, and hopefully we will as well, so thanks.